Hi, I'm Pete the Peptide Guy in the podcast lane, and I'm with Treasure Milinovich.
Yes.
All right. All right. So, Treasure, you're very interesting in what you do. I'm very interested in this world of spirituality and Reiki and things like that. It seems pretty mystical to some people.
Yeah.
Does it work? How it works? How did you get involved?
So I found yoga when I was in my mid-20s. I had a very, challenging and disruptive younger life. And I needed something, right? I was looking for something, and yoga was that thing. And the very first time that I was in a class, I was in Shavasana and I just started crying. And it was the very first time that I ever really felt at home in my body. And so yoga became my thing, 25, 26, 27. And then I became a teacher. 28, I became a teacher, and I really dove into understanding what is this science. And that's what it is. It's a science, right? So whenever I was 30, I got married and I had 3 kids in 3.5 years, and really dove into this journey of being a mom. But I dove into that journey with the foundation of yoga, with the foundation of movement and breath and meditation. And so I'd get up every morning before the kids. I mean, for many years, I got up at 4 a.m. and I would meditate and I would just set my intentions. And I just knew that it had to be a part of my life if I was going to be um, really successful in any way. And so it was a journey, and then in my mid-30s, I found like human potential and started doing some work with people like Bob Proctor, and The Secret came out at that time. And so I was just like, what is this? And I got very excited about that, and dove into, a life coaching and Think and Grow Rich. And I used to teach these courses on Think and Grow Rich, and I actually coached people around it, and I absolutely loved it. And I was in the industry of network marketing for a while, and found some success that way. And then I came to this place where I was just feeling very empty, right? And it was like, okay, I was kind of out there, and I was being, I was known, but I was feeling very empty. And so I really turned fully back to yoga. And I dove back into the science of yoga and movement and breath and meditation. And I spent, a lot of time um, journeying in that realm. So, you keep going. You're a wife, you're a mom, it's life, you continue to expand, you have struggles, but this is always the foundation. It's always the foundation. I always made my own personal work, my own personal experiences, like at the forefront of my life, no matter what. I would go on retreats. I would go off by myself on a 2-day silent retreat. It's just one of the things my husband knew I needed. He would actually say, like, I think it's time. Or are you going to yoga? Are you going to go on a retreat soon? And so I just knew that for me, being in this life, I had to put myself first. So I came across mindfulness meditation probably in my later 30s, and I'd been meditating at that point for almost 10 years, right? But I was still struggling. I was still like reactive. And so I found mindfulness, and mindfulness really was kind of a huge key for me because it was about building mindful awareness throughout your day, right?
Amazing.
So I started to really incorporate that into every day. So it's like while you're washing dishes, while you're doing laundry, while I'm like sitting in line waiting for my kids, sitting at sports activities, and I would just practice. I would practice mindfulness. And so everything really started to shift for me with mindfulness. At that time, I also got attuned to Reiki. I became a Reiki practitioner. It was all the fun things, right? It's like, I was like a kid in the candy store. I was like, what is that? What is that? I've got like every single sort certification that you could possibly have, right? But then it was just like I kept going. I kept expanding and I kept exploring. And then when my middle child was in 5th grade, and I had helped start a nonprofit where we were teaching mindfulness in schools, and I was really kind of seen as this expert in meditation, but I was still struggling. And I felt like a fraud. I had all of these people looking to me,
Right.
and I was like, I don't feel true. I don't feel authentic. And so I quit everything. And I said, I'm not going to teach anybody anything else. I'm not going to coach anyone. I'm not going to hold space with anyone. I'm going to be a mom, and I'm going to be a wife, and I'm going to dive into my own spiritual journey, like deeper than I ever have before. And I'll be honest, at the time I wasn't even sure I really wanted to go on in life. I was like, I've been doing this for so long. I've been trying to break through for so long. I had sat at the feet of masters. You read these books, all of this stuff about awakening, and I'm like, what is this? I can't get there. And so I stopped, you know, and because I'm a type A Aries, I gave myself 1 year, and I was like, all right, I'm doing this for 1 year. And that 1 year became 2 years. And I had the most profound, beautiful awakening experience that just kept going, or so I was about 4 years in this place of just beautiful oneness with God,
That,
and
that that's fantastic. I mean,
yeah,
that's a great start.
yeah,
Yeah, the mindfulness part I think is the toughest thing that people have, right?
yeah,
Because there's just so much noise all around you, right? And the present moment is the only moment we really have, right?
yes,
There's no past, there's no future. It's just where you're at. Like
yeah,
you and I are just sitting here at this desk, and that's all
yes,
that matters at this point.
yes,
And I totally believe and I get that. Somebody who's gone through his own personal things like myself and gotten there, how does one start? Like, how does somebody like say, you know what, Treasure, like, please help me?
It's so funny. I always tell people, I'm like, I can't do anything for you, right? Because you have to do it, right? And really, the very first thing is just the commitment to self. I say all the time, put yourself at the top of your list. Especially women, we have a tendency, like we're down there, seventh, eighth, right? And so I say it often, it's like you have to put yourself first. And it's not a selfish thing, it's a selfless thing, right? And then it really is, it's very simple. We say this all the time. It's not, it's difficult and it's a challenge, but it's actually very simple. It's very simple practices done habitually, right? It's no different than if you're training, a muscle, right? You're training the muscle of the mind, right? Into stillness, into awareness. And whenever you do that, that's when something incredible happens.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that, and it is an awakening moment. We were
Yeah.
having a conversation. It was like, when you hit halftime in this life, it's like all of a sudden the bulb goes off and you're like, oh, okay. And is it because I've learned so much? Is it because I'm afraid of running out of time? Or is it
Yeah.
because I'm thinking about all these things? So go back to breath work really quickly while we have time, because I think people don't really understand what that means. Like, I breathe every day. What does that really mean?
Yeah. I would say that, you're up in probably the 90% of people that actually don't breathe properly, right? So it's a very shallow. So whenever you look at a baby, right, a baby's breathing from the belly, right? And it's a full breath, right? So it's utilizing the breath in the body to come into the present moment, right? And whenever you really utilize the breath fully and completely, it's an entire experience, right? It breathes, I say it all the time, like the breath breathing the body, right? So everything coming up and like just transforming you from something as easy as your breath.
That's fantastic. I mean, that it's you just really just keep it simple. Like, and that's
Yeah.
really what it's about, which is
Yes.
great. So, I mean, I could talk to you for hours about this stuff because it's just so really cool.
Yeah.
But we're kind of short on time. How does somebody get in touch with you to just start?
Yeah. So we have a little wellness center up in Cave Creek. It's called The Space. And we do small group gatherings up there. We do one on ones, we do retreats. And we have a podcast that's launching in March called The Space Between, which is really all about this, right? Where we get to explore. So yeah, I'm excited for as we move into this new realm of so many more people awakening, right?
That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Treasure, because you definitely are a gift. So thank you so much for being here today.